Disclaimer.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Joe Grizzly.
On a rare occasion, moviegoers will get to watch a film that starts a new cinematic era and becomes a classic. On a less rare occasion, moviegoers will get to watch the remake of a classic film that completely misses the mark. Case in point, Rob Zombie's Halloween. It's been 10 years since this crummy remake of John Carpenter's horror classic hit theaters, but in an era where remakes are the norm, it's important to analyze exactly why so many remakes come off as half-hearted imitations that fail to leave a mark. This is not to say remakes are inherently bad, as John Carpenter's horror classic The Thing is a remake of a film called The Thing from Another World, and it's considered one of the best films of all time. But all good remakes understand what made the original film great, and keep that spirit of the original film intact while changing the less important variables throughout the specific story. Part of why 2007's Halloween fails is at the fault of the director and writer's background. Rob Zombie is first and foremost a shock rock musician. Shock rock is a genre of music boasting bands like Alice Cooper, Kiss, and Marilyn Manson, where one minute you're singing a jam and the next you get your head lopped off in a guillotine. Its biggest draw is theatrics designed to shock, surprise, and disgust. These three elements carry over into Rob Zombie's cinematic style, especially the shock and disgust.
Man, that bitch got herself a nice little dumper.
Rob Zombie's Halloween showcases an abusive and neglectful household. There's a rape attempt in Michael Myers' cell, and in one of Myers' kills, the camera literally shakes with each blow to the victim's head. The film practically bludgeons its audience with violence, vulgarity,
I will skull fuck the shit out of you!
and blood in an attempt to shock and disturb its watchers. The film's title card even has a jump scare sound effect. You see, the goal of horror is to make your audience feel scared long after they've left the theater. Startling the audience with loud noises, shaky cameras, and lots of bloody violence is not going to leave any lasting effect on your watchers. Now let's compare that to John Carpenter's Halloween. In John Carpenter's Halloween, the kills are violent, but they're not bloody. The only blood we get in John Carpenter's Halloween is in the film's introduction and at the murder site of the mechanic. It's a classic theatrical approach to horror seen in films like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. When you minimize the violence and blood on frame in a film, the imagination of the audience goes wild, and they see something way worse than anything that was on screen. Less is more, especially in a film with a tight budget. Minimalism is a factor that helps make all great horror universally creepy, and it's what makes the Michael Myers of John Carpenter's Halloween effective. In the words of literary giant H.P. Lovecraft, the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown. We only know 3 things about Michael Myers for sure. 1. Myers is, or was at one point, a human being. 2. Myers killed his sister when he was 7 years old. And 3. Myers escaped from an insane asylum on the night before Halloween. Any additional information that we get on Michael Myers is from his psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, who acts as the Van Helsing to Myers' Dracula. That being said, Loomis is a psychiatrist on an active mission to kill his patient. Just listen to the way he talks about him.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Don't underestimate it.
Don't you think we could refer to it as him?
Man wouldn't do that. This isn't a man.
He's gone. He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Now I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a very reliable source of factual information to me. We get no explanation as to how a psychiatric patient became a monster capable of being stabbed, shot multiple times, and falling out of a building without so much as a scratch. Was he loaded up with experimental steroids in that asylum? Did he make a deal with the devil? Or hell, maybe he's possessed? We never find out. All of this sets up Michael Myers as the prime example of the force of nature villain. Myers is even referred to as the Shape in both the credits and the script. He is death personified, and you can't kill death. Thus, the characters in this film are pitted against an apparently unstoppable entity, and their sole savior is a man with a questionable moral compass, which makes every encounter with the Shape all the more terrifying. Alternatively, Rob Zombie decided that it was more important to make Halloween feel realistic, and to peel back the curtain as to why Michael Myers kills people. Throughout Rob Zombie's Halloween, we see that Michael Myers grew up in an abusive household, got bullied by Junie Cortez from Spy Kids, and he kills animals for fun, so it's pretty safe to assume that the kid is mentally ill. Plus, we spend so much time with Michael Myers as he breaks down that it's almost like Rob Zombie wants us to feel sorry for this little psychopath. And yet through this in-depth humanization of Michael Myers, who, may I remind you, is a remorseless killer, we never get any explanation as to how this pudgy little kid became this hulking beast. You can't have any character be both a grounded, realistic, and sympathetic human being while also being the personification of death. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I genuinely sound annoyed? No, that's just how I sound when I'm scared, I promise. Rob Zombie's Halloween shows the failure to understand what makes great horror effective. It's not the man behind the mask that makes the killer scary, it's what the mask represents. And this is the fundamental flaw that makes most forgettable horror films ineffective. The worst part is Rob Zombie's Halloween isn't even a consistent remake. At first it feels like it's a completely different take on John Carpenter's original film, keeping the film focused on the life and times of Michael Myers. But then an hour into the film, it shifts into a borderline shot-for-shot remake that tries to up the shock value of a horror film that most, if not all fans of the horror genre, have already seen. Ultimately, Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween fails because at its core, the film not only tries to be a shot-for-shot remake of John Carpenter's classic film, but it also changes up the film in a way that completely misses the spirit of the original film. John Carpenter's Halloween is by no means a perfect film, but it holds a firm grasp on a universal fear. A faceless, unstoppable force wants you dead. And I don't see any major flaws with that being scary. So I think the final question that we should really ask is the one to bring to the table of any upcoming remake. If Rob Zombie genuinely wanted to make a film that was so different and yet so similar to the original source material purely out of artistic inspiration, then why didn't he just make an original movie inspired by the Hallmark film instead of trying to one-up the original?